The alien queen demanded, "Look at me, Earthborn." And what I said next left her speechless. The crash had been sudden. One moment, Captain Ryan Carter was navigating through the thick cloud banks above an uncharted planet, and the next his ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the hum of the engines turned into an unbearable screech. Ryan fought to stabilize the controls, but it was too late. With a deafening jolt, the ship slammed onto the rocky terrain below, throwing him forward. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he forced himself to sit up, taking a shallow breath. The cockpit was damaged, sparks flying from broken panels, and a thin mist of smoke curled around him. He managed to unbuckle and stagger out. The air outside was breathable, but carried a strange metallic tang. Jagged crystal formations jutted from the ground, glowing faintly with an inner light that shifted from blue to violet. Strange plant-like structures swayed without wind, their translucent leaves emitting soft pulses. The landscape was alien, beautiful, and intimidating all at once. He knew he was far from home, far from any help. The planet's name was unknown, and perhaps nobody would ever find him here. Ryan pulled his survival pack from the wreckage. He had trained for emergencies like this, and he knew panic would only make things worse. With a careful eye on the glowing horizon, he began walking, keeping his bearings. The ground beneath his boots was firm but uneven, and every step sent a small shower of crystal dust into the air. He needed shelter and supplies, and he needed to figure out what kind of life existed here, if any. Hours passed as he navigated the alien terrain. The sun, or what he assumed was the planet's sun, was larger and dimmer than Earth's, casting long, violet shadows. He noticed signs that something had once been here, structures that looked deliberately made. Crystal towers rose in the distance, angled sharply toward the sky. They hummed faintly, almost like they were alive. He approached cautiously, scanning for movement. His instincts, honed from years of dangerous missions, told him that he was not alone. He had almost reached the edge of one tower when a sudden shift in the air stopped him in his tracks. The temperature changed, and an invisible weight pressed on his chest. Ryan froze, instinct screaming that someone or something was watching. And then she appeared. She stepped from the shadows of the crystalline tower, tall and regal. Her presence seemed to bend the light around her, making the air shimmer. Her skin was pale with a faint, iridescent glow, and her eyes were larger than human eyes, shimmering with intelligence and authority. Her hair moved as if it had a life of its own, flowing around her shoulders even though there was no wind. Every movement she made was precise, deliberate, and commanding. "Look at me, Earthborn," she demanded. Her voice carried in his mind as well as through the air, echoing with an authority that was impossible to ignore. Ryan's heart pounded. He had faced hostile alien species before, but never one that exuded pure dominance without lifting a weapon. He forced himself to meet her gaze. Fear clawed at his mind, but he couldn't show it, not if he wanted to survive. The moment he looked directly into her eyes, he felt a subtle pressure, a probing sensation that seemed to scan his very thoughts. He shivered but held his ground. "I'm looking," he said evenly, trying to keep his voice steady. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Bold. Or foolish, perhaps both. Few of your kind dare speak to me without trembling." Her gaze lingered on him, sharp and calculating, as though weighing his worth. "Why should I spare you?" Ryan swallowed, knowing the wrong answer could cost him his life. He studied her, trying to understand her. This was not just a warrior. This was a ruler, a mind that had commanded and survived countless challenges. And yet he realized she had curiosity in her eyes, a faint spark of interest that he might use to his advantage. "I'm a survivor," he said calmly, "and survivors can be useful." He forced a small, confident smile. "I know things about your world you might not expect." For a moment the Queen tilted her head, intrigued. Ryan's heart skipped a beat, but he pressed on. He needed to demonstrate that humans were not to be dismissed, that he was not just another weak, fearful creature. He gestured toward the device he had found in the wreckage, a small piece of alien technology that had started to hum faintly when touched. "I can understand this. I can fix it." The Queen's eyes widened slightly, though she quickly masked any expression. "You touch our technology without fear, you assume it obeys you." Her voice carried a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Ryan knelt by the device and examined it carefully. The alien markings were complex, unlike anything he had seen, but patterns emerged. His fingers moved with precision, adjusting components, rerouting energy flows. Sparks flew, but carefully he rewired the mechanism until it powered up fully. Light pulsed rhythmically, casting soft reflections across the crystals around them. The queen's expression shifted. She studied him closely, silent now, as if evaluating the meaning behind his actions. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling both the weight of the moment and a surge of pride. He had taken a risk, but he had proven a point. Humans could adapt, learn, and excel even in the presence of beings far more advanced. "Interesting," she finally said. "Few Earthborn show such resourcefulness." Her voice was softer now, still commanding but tinged with curiosity. "You have skills and a mind that is not easily intimidated. Perhaps there is more to you than I expected." Ryan stood slowly, keeping his posture steady. "I can do more than survive," he said. "I can solve problems, even ones your species might consider unsolvable. I only need the chance." The queen studied him for several long moments, her eyes seeming to pierce into his very soul. Ryan held his ground, feeling the pressure of her psychic presence but refusing to break. He sensed that she was testing him, not with weapons, but with her mind. "You speak with confidence," she said at last. "Yet words alone will not convince me. Actions will. There is a challenge before my people, one that requires intellect and courage. If you succeed, you may earn my respect. If you fail, you will not survive." Ryan nodded slowly. "I accept. Tell me what must be done." The queen extended a hand, and a holographic display appeared in the air between them. Complex symbols and patterns floated, shifting and changing faster than Ryan could follow. At the center was a pulsing core of light, surrounded by a network of lines and nodes. "This is our problem," she said. "A construct of thought and energy that my people created long ago. It was meant to protect us. But it has grown beyond control, and now it threatens all we hold dear. You will help us contain it." Ryan's mind raced. The task sounded impossible, yet he could not show hesitation. "I'll do it," he said. "I'll figure it out." The queen's gaze softened slightly, though she did not smile. "Your spirit is unique among humans. Perhaps this is why I am intrigued. Come. We have much to discuss before you begin. And know this, Earthborn, I will be watching. Every thought, every choice, every move. Fail me, and you will not live to regret it. Succeed, and you may discover the true power of your kind." As Ryan followed her, stepping cautiously across the glowing crystal landscape, he realized something profound. He had faced impossible odds before, but this was different. This was a test not just of skill or strength, but of mind, courage, and ingenuity. And somehow he felt a spark of hope. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, often dismissed as primitive, weak, or reckless. Yet here he was, standing before a being of unimaginable power, proving that humanity could hold its own. For the first time in days, Ryan allowed himself a small, private smile. He was scared, yes, but he was also alive, unbroken, and capable. And somehow he knew that this encounter, this challenge, might not just determine his fate, but show the galaxy that humans were a force to be reckoned with. The alien towers hummed softly as they walked, the light shifting and reflecting off the crystals in dazzling patterns. The queen's presence was overwhelming, yet not oppressive. Ryan could feel her curiosity, her intelligence, her subtle respect growing with each step he took. As the sky darkened, tinged with the strange colors of the alien sun, Ryan prepared himself. Whatever came next, he would face it as a human, fearless, resourceful, and determined to prove that even an Earthborn could stand against the unknown and emerge triumphant. Ryan followed the queen through the glowing corridors of the crystalline tower. Every step echoed softly, like a whisper through the vast emptiness. The walls shifted subtly, refracting light in strange patterns that made it difficult to judge distance. He kept his eyes on the floor, careful not to be distracted, but he could feel her gaze on him, always observing. There was something both intimidating and oddly inspiring about her presence. She moved with perfect confidence, every gesture deliberate, every step purposeful. "You are not like the others," she said finally, her voice calm but sharp. "Most of your kind would have cowered, some would have tried to flee, but you faced the unknown without surrender." Ryan nodded. "Fear is natural, but it doesn't have to control me. I've survived worse than this." She tilted her head, a gesture that seemed almost curious rather than threatening. "Your confidence may be your strength or your weakness, we shall see." They reached a chamber at the heart of the tower. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to vanish into darkness above. At its center, a holographic map hovered in midair, a complex web of glowing lines and floating symbols. Ryan stepped closer, examining it carefully. He could see that it represented the planet and its surrounding systems, with multiple points of light flickering along the lines. At first, it made no sense, but as he watched, patterns began to emerge. "This is the construct," the Queen explained. "It moves like thought, reacts like instinct. It was created to protect our civilization, to monitor and respond to threats. But it has grown beyond our control." Ryan studied the display. The points of light pulsed erratically, spreading in unpredictable patterns. "It's like it's alive," he said. "A machine, but with thought, or maybe something beyond thought." "Precisely," the Queen said. "Our attempts to contain it have failed. It destroys anything that threatens its order, including those it was meant to protect. It has no empathy, no understanding. That is why we need you." Ryan looked at her, surprised. "Me? Why not one of your own?" She regarded him with an unreadable expression. "Because you think differently. Your species solves problems in ways we cannot. You improvise, you adapt. You see solutions where others see only obstacles. That is why I have brought you here." Ryan swallowed, realizing the weight of the responsibility she had given him. He had faced dangerous situations before, but this was unlike anything he had ever imagined. He was not just trying to survive, he was being asked to save an entire civilization from a threat it had created. "Show me what you know," the Queen said. "Prove to me that you are capable of handling this challenge." Ryan took a deep breath. He knelt beside one section of the holographic display and studied the code and energy flows. Though it was alien, some patterns reminded him of systems he had repaired on his own ship. Logic was universal, he thought. Patterns and rules applied everywhere. With careful observation, he began to understand the construct's behavior, predicting its movements and reactions. Hours passed, though time felt different in the chamber. Ryan worked tirelessly, making careful adjustments to the energy pathways, rerouting signals and stabilizing unstable nodes. The Queen watched silently, her expression calm but keenly attentive. At first, she seemed to doubt his methods, but gradually her posture softened as she observed his success. "You have potential," she said at last. "You think in ways we cannot. You may survive this trial after all." Ryan straightened, exhaustion pressing against him, but he refused to show weakness. "It's not finished yet," he said. "I understand how it reacts, but we still need a way to communicate with it, to control it without destroying it." The Queen nodded. "Communication is impossible for us. The construct does not respond to commands or requests. It only reacts to threats or directives, but perhaps you can find a way." Ryan studied the patterns again. He realized that the construct responded to intent, to purpose, not just data. It reacted violently when it sensed confusion or conflict, but it was surprisingly predictable when it understood a clear objective. That gave him an idea. He approached the control panel and began to input sequences slowly, carefully translating his intentions into the alien system's language. The construct responded with a subtle change in its pattern, a hesitation, as if it were considering his message. Ryan's pulse quickened. This was the first sign that he might be able to reach it. "You are bold," the Queen said softly. "Do you understand what you are doing?" Ryan nodded. "I'm trying to reason with it. I know it's not human, but intelligence responds to logic and purpose. I have to show it that we are not threats." Hours turned into a full cycle of the planet's day and night. Ryan barely rested, driven by the stakes and the strange thrill of the challenge. He began to notice subtle shifts in the construct's behavior, patterns that became predictable under his guidance. Slowly, he gained a sense of its thought process, its rules, its limitations. "You are extraordinary," the Queen said quietly, almost as if to herself. "Most humans could not endure this. Most would have failed long ago." Ryan smiled faintly, despite the fatigue. "Humans endure, we adapt. That's what makes us strong." For the first time, the Queen's expression seemed to show admiration, though she quickly masked it. She moved closer to him, observing his work silently. "Your kind is unpredictable, resourceful, dangerous, yet fascinating." Ryan looked up. "We have to finish this before it escalates further. If it senses a threat, it could destroy everything." The Queen studied the display with him, pointing out subtle fluctuations in the energy network that he might have missed. Together, they worked, an unlikely team of human and alien intellect. Ryan realized that despite her power, she trusted him, relying on his perspective to solve a problem that had confounded her civilization for generations. As the cycle continued, Ryan began to feel a connection with the construct, a strange understanding. It was not human, but it had logic, rules, and a form of intelligence that he could communicate with if approached correctly. He adjusted his method, emphasizing cooperation rather than control, guiding the construct without forcing it. The queen observed in silence, her posture rigid but attentive. "You are not just clever," she said finally. "You possess empathy. That is something we rarely see in those who face challenges of this magnitude." Ryan paused. "Empathy for a machine?" "Yes," she said. "Intelligence alone is not enough. Understanding intent, perspective, and purpose, this is what makes you unique. Perhaps this is why your kind survives against impossible odds." Night fell on the alien world, though the light from the crystal towers bathed the landscape in a soft glow. Ryan's fingers ached from hours of precise work, his mind strained but focused. Slowly, steadily, the construct began to stabilize, its chaotic movements smoothing into predictable patterns. It no longer lashed out blindly. It hesitated, considered, and even seemed to respond to his guidance. "This is it," Ryan said quietly, a mix of relief and excitement in his voice. "It's listening." The queen stepped closer. "You have done what no one else could. You have made it understand that we are not threats. This is remarkable." Ryan looked at her, noticing for the first time the faint trace of admiration in her expression. "It's not just me," he said. "It's humans. We survive because we think, adapt, and find solutions when others see only problems. That's who we are." The queen was silent for a moment, her gaze distant. Then she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of authority and respect. "You have shown me something I did not expect. Your kind is not weak. Your kind is capable of more than we imagined." "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated Earthborn for far too long." Ryan smiled, feeling a surge of pride. He had faced the impossible and held his ground, not through force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and understanding. He had proven that humans could stand against even the most advanced civilizations, not as inferior creatures, but as equals. The queen moved aside, allowing Ryan to continue his work with the construct. Though the task was not yet complete, the breakthrough had been achieved. Ryan could feel the tension in the system easing, the danger lessening with each careful adjustment. He had not only survived, he had made a difference. "You have my attention," the queen said finally, her voice softer than before, "and perhaps my respect. Continue, Earthborn. Prove to me that your kind is worthy of recognition in ways we never imagined." Ryan nodded, turning back to the display. He felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was not just a test of skill, it was a test of humanity itself. And for the first time, he truly believed that humans could rise to meet any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. Hours passed, but Ryan no longer felt the exhaustion as acutely. He was driven by something stronger: determination, pride, and the thrill of showing that Earthborn were capable of extraordinary feats. The alien queen watched silently, her presence commanding yet respectful, as Ryan continued to guide the construct toward stability. As the night wore on, Ryan realized that this was only the beginning. The challenge had started, but the lessons he had learned, the skills he had applied, and the respect he had earned were just the first steps. The galaxy was vast, full of wonders and dangers, and humans had only begun to show what they could do. Ryan had barely slept. The glow of the alien towers outside never fully faded, casting long, shifting shadows across the crystalline corridors. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the pulsing patterns of the construct, its energy lines stretching and twisting across the holographic display in the heart of the tower. The Queen's challenge had not ended with the first breakthrough. It had only grown. He now understood that the construct's intelligence was far more complex than even she admitted. The Queen appeared beside him as he adjusted another sequence. Her presence, as always, was commanding yet observant. She watched silently for a moment, her iridescent eyes reflecting the light of the crystals. "You work tirelessly, Earthborn," she said softly. "Most of my kind would have grown frustrated, but you persist." Ryan shrugged, not taking his eyes off the display. "Persistence is human nature," he said. "We survive because we keep trying even when the odds are against us." She tilted her head, clearly intrigued. "And yet you also think differently. You do not just follow patterns, you adapt them. You bend rules not to break them, but to find new ways to succeed. Fascinating." Ryan focused again on the construct. The pulsing lines had become more coordinated, yet there were still chaotic fluctuations in certain nodes. He realized that it was reacting not just to his inputs, but to his intentions. The challenge was no longer mechanical, it was psychological, almost philosophical. He had to convince the construct of his purpose, and by extension, the Queen's people, without using force. "This is like nothing I've ever faced," he muttered to himself. "It's a mind, but not a human mind. How do you reason with something like that?" The Queen responded before he could ask. "You do what your species does best. You think, you innovate. You take risks where others would hesitate. That is why I brought you here. That is why you are still alive." Ryan took a deep breath and began adjusting the sequences again. He noticed subtle patterns in the chaos, tiny repetitions that suggested the construct had rules, limits, and preferences. It responded better when given clear objectives rather than complex instructions. He simplified his approach, breaking down the directives into smaller, logical steps. Slowly, carefully, the construct's erratic movements began to align. "You are improving its behavior," the Queen observed. "I had hoped for results, but this is exceptional." Few could have achieved it in so little time. Ryan smiled faintly, though fatigue weighed heavily on him. "It's not just me, it's humans. We survive by adapting. We find solutions when others see only problems. This is how we endure." The Queen's eyes glimmered with curiosity. "Your species is remarkable. We underestimated you. Perhaps we did so because we assumed weakness where there was strength, fear where there was courage, doubt where there was ingenuity." Ryan paused, realizing how true her words were. Humans had often been dismissed in the galaxy as primitive, unpredictable, or insignificant. And yet here he was, proving that even a single human could confront a problem that had stumped an entire civilization. Hours passed. Ryan worked with precision, guided by intuition as much as logic. The construct responded to his methods in ways that suggested comprehension rather than mere programming. It paused when he asked it to, shifted energy flows as he instructed, and even began to anticipate his adjustments. The Queen observed every interaction, occasionally stepping closer to offer subtle insights or corrections, though she rarely spoke unless necessary. "This is more than technology," she said finally, her voice almost reverent. "It is intelligence, awareness, a being created by thought and energy, yet it thinks like none of us. And you reach it in ways we cannot." Ryan nodded. "It's not about controlling it. It's about understanding it. Once it knows our purpose, it stops seeing us as threats." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Perhaps this is why I am intrigued by your kind. You do not rely on power alone. You rely on perception, creativity, and insight. And you endure when others fail." Ryan felt a surge of determination. He had come to this planet as a survivor, stranded and alone. Now he was a key player in a challenge that could determine the fate of an entire civilization. The weight of responsibility was immense, but he felt ready. Humans had survived countless impossible situations on Earth and beyond, and he knew that he could rise to meet this one. He continued to work, carefully refining the inputs, observing how the construct reacted. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The construct was beginning to align its energy flows with his intentions, stabilizing areas that had been chaotic. It was not fully cooperative yet, but it was listening. That alone was progress beyond what the Queen had expected. "You have made it consider," she said quietly. "Consider rather than react. That is a remarkable achievement." Ryan smiled faintly. "Consideration is the first step to understanding. That's how humans deal with complexity. We observe, we analyze, and then we act." The Queen moved closer, her eyes reflecting both curiosity and admiration. "You speak of your species with pride. Is this pride justified?" Ryan looked at her, his eyes steady. "Yes, humans endure, we adapt. We rise to challenges that others deem impossible. And we do it with creativity, courage, and understanding. That is why I am here. That is why I survive." For a moment, the Queen was silent. Then she nodded slightly, a gesture that seemed almost approving. "You are correct. Perhaps we have been too quick to underestimate your kind. Perhaps we have dismissed potential where we should have observed strength." Ryan returned to his work, carefully guiding the construct's energy patterns. The chaotic pulses had reduced significantly, though some nodes still flickered unpredictably. He realized that these areas were where the construct had developed independent thought, areas where it questioned directives or explored alternative solutions. He had to respect those zones, guiding rather than forcing, persuading rather than commanding. "You are teaching it patience," the Queen observed. "Patience and understanding are not traits we value highly in our species, yet here you show them to be effective." Ryan nodded. "Patience is essential. You can't force intelligence to obey, it has to choose to follow. That's true for humans and apparently for constructs too." Night stretched into the alien cycle's dark hours. Ryan felt the strain, his muscles aching and his mind pushed to its limits. Yet he could not stop. He had learned that hesitation would cost him progress, and in this case, failure could mean disaster for the entire civilization. Gradually, the construct's reactions became predictable, almost cooperative. It no longer lashed out or disrupted energy flows without cause. Instead, it paused, considered, and responded to Ryan's guidance with calculated precision. This was a breakthrough far beyond what he had imagined possible. "You have accomplished much," the Queen said finally, her voice carrying weight and admiration. "Few beings, human or otherwise, could have achieved this in such a short time. You have shown intelligence, courage, and adaptability. Perhaps your kind deserves recognition across the stars." Ryan felt a surge of pride. He had come to this planet as a stranded pilot, uncertain and alone. Now he was proving that humans could stand as equals, not by brute force, but by intellect, ingenuity, and determination. "It's not just me," he said quietly. "It's humanity. We survive because we think, adapt, and face challenges others avoid. That's who we are." The Queen's gaze softened slightly, though her authority remained. "I see this now, and I respect it. Your actions are not those of a simple Earthborn. They are those of a mind capable of greatness, and perhaps even more than I anticipated." Ryan smiled faintly, feeling the weight of her acknowledgement. He had not only survived, but he had made a difference. The construct, once a chaotic threat, now moved with purpose, guided by his insight. And in the process, he had shown the Queen, and perhaps her civilization, that humans were not to be dismissed. "You have earned a place in this challenge," the Queen said finally. "But know this, Earthborn, the path ahead is far from easy. The construct is not fully tamed. Its intelligence grows daily. And there are those within my court who do not trust you, who see your influence as a threat. You must be vigilant. You must continue to prove that your kind is worthy of respect and survival." Ryan nodded, understanding the stakes. The challenge was far from over, but he had already achieved something remarkable. He had earned the Queen's attention and respect, and he had begun to influence a force that had once seemed unstoppable. As he continued to work through the alien cycle, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than fear or fatigue. Humans endured impossible odds. Humans adapted. Humans rose to challenges that others deemed insurmountable. And Ryan, standing at the heart of an alien civilization's greatest challenge, was living proof of that truth. The night stretched on, the glowing towers casting long, shifting patterns across the crystalline landscape. Ryan guided the construct with careful precision, observing its responses, adjusting sequences, and ensuring stability. The Queen remained nearby, silent but attentive, a witness to humanity's ingenuity and resilience. For the first time, Ryan allowed himself a quiet thought. Perhaps humans were more capable than even he had realized. Perhaps, in this vast galaxy, humanity's true potential was only beginning to be seen. And in that realization, he found a quiet determination. The challenge would continue, yes. Danger would remain, but he was ready. Humans were ready. And the galaxy would soon learn that Earthborn were not merely survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and a force to be reckoned with. Ryan's progress with the construct had been remarkable, but he sensed the tension growing around him. The Queen's approval was apparent, but it was not universal. Whispers traveled through the crystalline halls like faint vibrations, a subtle reminder that not everyone shared her trust in a human. He had always known that being the only Earthborn in an advanced alien civilization would come with challenges, but he had not expected it to be so immediate. One morning, as he adjusted the energy flow of the construct, a group of alien advisors entered the chamber. They moved with sharp precision, their eyes narrowing on him. Ryan could feel the weight of scrutiny, the unspoken skepticism. These were leaders, engineers, and strategists, beings who had spent their lives mastering the same systems he was now influencing. They did not hide their disbelief that a human could understand their technology, let alone manipulate it with such success. "Captain Carter," one of them said, voice calm but edged with authority, "we observe your methods. Yet can you truly comprehend the full scope of our systems? You were not born here, you do not share our experience. How can we trust your judgment?" Ryan met their gaze steadily. He had faced skepticism before, from humans, from machines, from alien commanders. He had learned that confidence was often more persuasive than fear. "I do not claim to know everything," he said, "but I do understand patterns, logic, and purpose. That is enough to guide the construct safely. Experience is valuable, yes, but adaptability and clear thinking are just as important. I am here to prove that humans can solve problems your species cannot, not to replace your knowledge, but to complement it." The advisors exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. One stepped closer, scanning the holographic display. "You have made adjustments that stabilize certain nodes, but these changes are risky. If miscalculated, they could destabilize the system entirely. Are you willing to take that responsibility?" Ryan nodded. "I am. Every decision carries risk, but inaction carries greater danger. The construct is already unstable in many regions. My goal is to guide it to prevent destruction, not to create it. I accept the responsibility because someone must act." The advisors studied him in silence. For a long moment, it seemed as though nothing would move the tension. Then the Queen entered the chamber, her presence commanding attention. "Enough," she said sharply. "Captain Carter is not here to compete with your pride. He is here to save what your wisdom alone cannot protect. You will observe and learn, not hinder his work." Ryan felt the subtle relief of her support, but he knew this was only temporary. The advisors were intelligent, capable, and determined. He would need to prove himself not just to the construct, but to the court as well. He returned to the display, his mind focused. The construct's energy flows had become more predictable, but it still resisted total control. Certain areas flickered with chaos, reacting to his inputs with hesitation or confusion. Ryan realized these were zones where the construct had developed independent thought, testing him, probing his intentions. He had to respect these zones, guiding without forcing, persuading without demanding. Hours turned into cycles as Ryan worked tirelessly. The advisors lingered nearby, observing his every move, their skepticism slowly giving way to cautious curiosity. They saw the human's persistence, his ingenuity, and his ability to find solutions where their own methods had failed. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Ryan could feel a shift. Respect was beginning to replace doubt. "You think differently than we do," one of the advisors admitted quietly to the others. "Yet, there is method in his madness. He sees connections we overlook, solutions we cannot imagine." Ryan's focus never wavered. He adjusted sequences, tested responses, and observed the construct's behavior. Slowly, the chaotic areas began to align, energy flows stabilizing under his guidance. It was not perfect, but it was progress beyond what even the Queen had expected. "You are extraordinary," she said quietly, moving closer to his side. "Your species' ability to adapt, to innovate under pressure is remarkable. I see now why you were chosen for this task." Ryan glanced at her, a faint smile crossing his face. "I am not extraordinary. Humans endure, we adapt. We find solutions when others see only problems. That is what makes us capable." The Queen studied him, her expression unreadable for a moment. Then she nodded. "Perhaps this is true. Your actions reflect qualities that we have not valued enough. Resourcefulness, persistence, creativity, these are traits we see in few of our own kind, yet you embody them naturally." Ryan's confidence grew, but he remained cautious. He knew the court was still watching, ready to challenge him at the first sign of failure. He had to balance progress with diplomacy, innovation with respect for their systems. A sudden fluctuation in the construct's energy drew his attention. A region that had seemed stable erupted into chaotic pulses, threatening to disrupt the network. Ryan's mind raced. He could not afford hesitation. He quickly analyzed the problem, identifying the source of the instability. A node that had been overlooked by the alien engineers, reacting to subtle variables in unexpected ways. He reached out, inputting adjustments carefully, his fingers moving with precision and confidence. The construct paused, almost as if considering his actions. Then slowly the chaotic pulses subsided. The energy flowed smoothly once more, aligned with his guidance. The advisors gasped, some in disbelief, others in reluctant admiration. Even the Queen allowed a small nod of approval. "You see, Earthborn," she said, her voice softer now, "your kind possesses a quality we have underestimated. You act where others hesitate, you innovate where others follow tradition. That is why you succeed." Ryan exhaled, feeling the weight of the moment. He had not only stabilized the system, but he had begun to earn the respect of those who doubted him. It was a victory not of force, but of intellect, courage, and human ingenuity. As the cycle continued, Ryan noticed a subtle change in the construct's behavior. It no longer reacted with blind chaos. It paused, considered, and even seemed to anticipate his guidance. The breakthrough was significant. He was beginning to communicate with a being that was part machine, part intelligence beyond comprehension. "You are teaching it patience," one of the advisors said quietly, almost admiringly. "Patience and understanding, qualities we do not value highly, yet they prove effective," Ryan nodded. "You cannot force intelligence to obey, you can only guide it. That is true for humans and apparently for constructs as well." The Queen studied him closely. "You are not just clever," she said. "You possess insight, determination, and endurance, qualities we have rarely seen in beings we consider primitive. Your kind is remarkable." Ryan felt a quiet sense of pride. He had come to this planet as a stranded pilot, uncertain and alone. Now he was proving that humans could stand as equals, not through brute force, but through intellect, creativity, and courage. But the court's presence reminded him that the challenge was not over. Some still viewed him as a threat, an anomaly that challenged their authority. He knew that any mistake could be exploited, any hesitation could be punished. He had to remain vigilant, not just for the construct, but for his own survival and the delicate balance of trust he was building. Hours passed, the alien sky outside shifting in color as the planet rotated. Ryan continued to guide the construct, observing its responses and making adjustments. The chaotic areas became fewer, energy flows aligning more smoothly. It was a slow process, but progress was evident. "You have done more than I expected," the Queen said finally. "Few beings, human or otherwise, could have achieved this. You have shown intelligence, courage, and adaptability, and perhaps your kind deserves recognition across the stars." Ryan looked at her, a faint smile crossing his face. "It's not just me, it's humanity. We survive because we think, adapt, and face challenges others avoid. That is who we are." The Queen nodded slightly, her expression thoughtful. "I see this now, and I respect it. But know this, Earthborn, the path ahead is fraught with danger. The construct is not fully tamed. There are those within my court who remain wary, who see your influence as a threat. You must be vigilant. You must continue to prove that your kind is worthy." Ryan nodded, understanding the stakes. He was no longer just a pilot. He was a problem solver, a bridge between two species, and a representative of humanity's potential. The challenge would continue, yes. Danger would remain, but he was ready. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they would do so again. As the night deepened, Ryan guided the construct with careful precision. He observed, adjusted, and learned. The Queen remained nearby, a silent witness to humanity's ingenuity and resilience. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was determined to succeed. Not just for himself, but for the humans who had sent him into the stars, and for the civilization that now depended on his skill and insight. And in that determination, he found strength. The construct was not just a challenge. It was proof that humans could rise to meet any obstacle, no matter how advanced or alien. And Ryan, standing in the heart of an alien civilization, was ready to show the galaxy what Earthborn were truly capable of. The day had come when Ryan knew the final test awaited him. The construct was nearly stabilized, its chaotic energy flows now responding with surprising precision. Yet he could feel the tension in the air, the subtle unease among the Queen's court, the quiet watchfulness in the tower's halls, and the lingering unpredictability of the construct itself. He had come far, but he knew this was the moment that would decide everything. Not just the fate of the construct, but the fate of an entire civilization and humanity's place in the stars. The Queen appeared at his side, her presence both reassuring and commanding. "Earthborn," she said, her voice carrying authority and calm, "you have shown ingenuity, courage, and resilience. Few beings could have reached this point, yet the final trial awaits. You must face the construct fully, in a manner that tests not only your skill but your understanding and judgment. Failure is not an option. Ryan nodded, taking a deep breath. He had faced impossible odds before, but this challenge was unlike any other. The construct was more than a machine. It was intelligence, energy, and awareness, a being that had grown beyond its original purpose. He had learned to guide it, to communicate with it in subtle ways, but he knew the final step would require trust that it would respond to his intentions rather than his commands. As he entered the main chamber, the construct's energy surged around him, pulsating with immense power. The walls reflected the light in dazzling patterns, and the air seemed to hum with anticipation. Ryan stepped forward carefully, feeling the vibrations under his boots. The advisors lingered in the shadows, their expressions tense. Even they seemed to sense the magnitude of the moment. Ryan reached the control interface, a series of alien panels that reacted to his touch. He studied the construct's core, its energy flows weaving intricate patterns across the chamber. He realized that this was not just a mechanical system, it was a mind, a consciousness that required reasoning rather than control. "You understand it," the Queen said softly. "You have guided it where others failed. Now you must fully engage, not as an operator, but as a partner. Can you do this, Earthborn?" Ryan took a deep breath. "I can. I will." He began inputting sequences, not with the precision of force, but with the intention of communication. He allowed the construct to respond, pausing when it hesitated, adjusting when it faltered. Slowly, it began to align, energy flows synchronizing with his guidance. He could feel a subtle acknowledgement from the construct, a recognition of purpose. The chamber trembled as energy surged, yet Ryan remained focused. He spoke quietly, though the construct could hear him in ways beyond sound. "We are not your enemies. We seek stability, not destruction. Help us protect, not harm." The construct pulsed in response, its chaotic flickers diminishing. Ryan adjusted his inputs, emphasizing cooperation, clarity, and intent. Gradually, the energy stabilized, flowing in harmony rather than conflict. The advisors watched in awe as a being they had considered uncontrollable responded to the guidance of a single human. "You see," Ryan said quietly to the Queen, "it's about understanding, not control. You can't force it. You can only guide it, show it purpose." The Queen nodded slowly. "Yes, your kind's ingenuity is profound. You combine intellect, creativity, and empathy in ways that even we seldom do. You are not merely surviving, Earthborn, you are teaching." Suddenly, a surge of energy pulsed from the construct, sending a shockwave through the chamber. Ryan stumbled but held his ground, adjusting the sequences with rapid precision. He realized that this was a test, the construct assessing the limits of his skill, his judgment, and his resolve. "You are ready," he whispered to himself. "Focus, think, adapt." Hours passed as he guided the construct, carefully balancing risk and precision. The energy flows stabilized further, responding not just to his inputs but to his intent. The chaotic nodes smoothed, the pulses aligned, and for the first time the construct moved with deliberate purpose, almost as if it understood the larger goal. The Queen observed silently, her expression a mixture of awe and respect. "Remarkable," she murmured. "You have done what no one else could. You have not only survived, but you have guided a being beyond comprehension. You have proven that humans are capable of greatness." Ryan allowed himself a small smile, though exhaustion pressed heavily on him. "It's not about greatness," he said quietly. "It's about perseverance. Humans endure. We find solutions when others see only obstacles. That's what makes us strong." The advisors stepped closer, their skepticism replaced by cautious admiration. "Incredible," one of them said softly. "We doubted him, yet he has achieved what we could not. Perhaps our judgment of humans was flawed." Ryan turned to them, keeping his focus on the construct. "Intelligence alone is not enough. You need adaptability, creativity, and understanding. That is how humans face impossible odds. That is how we survive." The Queen's eyes gleamed with approval. "You have taught more than just a machine, Earthborn. You have taught perspective. Insight, empathy. These are qualities we must respect. Your species is formidable in ways we did not anticipate." As the final adjustments were made, the construct responded with complete synchronization. The chaotic energy that had threatened the planet now flowed harmoniously, guided by Ryan's careful intervention. It was not controlled, but it was aligned. The room was filled with a soft, steady hum, a testament to his success. The Queen stepped forward, her presence imposing yet respectful. "You have earned more than survival, Earthborn. You have earned trust, respect, and recognition. Your actions demonstrate that your kind is not to be underestimated. You have shown us that humans can rise to challenges that even we cannot overcome alone. Ryan exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride flooding through him. He had come as a stranded pilot, uncertain and alone. Now he stood at the center of an alien civilization, having solved a problem that had eluded the greatest minds of their species. Humans, often dismissed as weak or primitive, had proven their value. "You have done it," he said quietly to the Queen. "It's stable. It's no longer a threat." The Queen nodded, her expression softening. "Yes, and you have shown us that intelligence, creativity, and perseverance can overcome what brute strength cannot. This is the essence of your species, is it not?" Ryan smiled faintly. "Yes, humans endure. We adapt, we face challenges others avoid, and we rise stronger for it." The advisors approached, their skepticism gone, replaced by acknowledgement. "We have judged too quickly," one admitted. "This human has proven insight and skill beyond what we imagined possible." Ryan glanced at them, a subtle nod of understanding and respect. "It's not about me alone. It's about what humans can do when we are challenged, when we are tested. We survive because we think, adapt, and act." The Queen's eyes held a rare softness. "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated Earthborn for too long. Your actions here will be remembered. You have not only stabilized the construct, but you have shown that humans are capable of cooperation, insight, and courage unmatched by many civilizations." Ryan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. He had come to this alien world as a stranger, stranded and alone. He had faced a threat that seemed impossible, navigated political tension, and guided a force beyond comprehension. And he had succeeded, proving that humans were more than mere survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and equals among the stars. "You have done more than survive," the Queen said, her voice carrying both respect and admiration. "You have changed how we see your kind. You have shown that humans are not to be dismissed. You have proven that they can rise to any challenge, no matter how advanced or alien." Ryan allowed himself a small, quiet smile. "That's who we are. We endure. We adapt. We rise to challenges others cannot face. That is what it means to be human." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Yes, Earthborn, you are worthy of trust, respect, and recognition. Your species has potential we must no longer ignore." As Ryan prepared to leave the chamber, he felt a sense of pride and purpose. The construct was stabilized, the court's tension eased, and the Queen had acknowledged humanity's worth. He had proven that humans could stand as equals among advanced civilizations, not through force, but through intellect, creativity, and perseverance. The alien towers outside shimmered in the soft light of the planet's sun, casting reflections across the crystalline landscape. Ryan looked up, knowing that humanity's journey in the galaxy was only beginning. He had faced the impossible, and he had triumphed. Humans had endured, adapted, and proven their worth once again. The Queen's voice called softly from behind him. "Earthborn, you have done more than I expected. You have shown us the true strength of your kind. Perhaps the galaxy will finally understand what it means to underestimate humanity." Ryan turned, offering a respectful nod. "It's not just about survival. It's about proving that humans can rise to any challenge, protect what matters, and adapt to the unknown. That is our way. That is what makes us strong." The Queen studied him, her eyes reflecting both admiration and quiet respect. "Indeed, you have proven your point. And in doing so, you have ensured that your species will be remembered among the stars, not as weaklings, but as beings capable of remarkable achievement." Ryan stepped forward, ready to leave the chamber, his heart filled with quiet pride. He had survived the challenge, guided the construct, navigated political tension, and shown that humans were capable of greatness. Humanity had risen once again, not by force, but by courage, intellect, and adaptability. And as he walked through the glowing halls of the alien tower, Ryan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown challenges, but humanity was ready. Humans endured, humans adapted, and humans, when faced with the impossible, would always rise.